What's good? Here's Wrestle Kingdom, and today I'm going to be discussing my overall review and my thoughts on the overall show of AEW Dynasty. I'm going to go and get straight into it. The first match of the 0 hour show was Trent Beretta versus Matt Sydal. This was a decent match, really decent match. Actually, kind of impressed me. Trent Beretta ends up winning the match via submission. After the match, after he gets the submission, he keeps submitting Matt Sydal out. He's not letting go. I think a person came out, but couldn't stop the submission hold, and then Matt Sydal kept on attacking. Chuck Taylor comes out, comes in the ring. Then Trent Beretta gets out the ring, and that prevents him to stop attacking Matt. Gets out, gets a microphone, and ends up telling Chuck Taylor that you have until Dynamite this upcoming week to let me know where you stand. Then he drops the microphone, tries to leave out, but then Orange Cassidy theme music hits. He's waiting for Orange to come out. Orange comes out the entrance, and they have a little stare down, and then that leads into the next match. Trent Beretta, Matt Sydal, nothing too special happened in this match, but there was a really decent match for 0 hour. The next 0 hour match we have is Orange Cassidy and Shibata versus Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. I think that's how you pronounce it. This was also a really decent match. Nothing too major happened in this match. Orange Cassidy ends up hitting the orange punch to Lee Moriarty for the victory. Orange Cassidy and Shibata ends up winning this match. Next, the last match for the 0 hour show is Bullet Club Gold versus the Acclaim. This was actually a really good match. This match actually impressed me a lot. This was a really good match, and the winner of this match actually surprised me. We got this was very chaotic. We had a sequence where Billy Gunn was on the ropes. Jay White ends up hitting him with his bat from behind when the referee wasn't looking. And then afterwards, I think they end up hitting him from the back. I think Cole Gunn ends up taking advantage, goes to the pin, but he ends up kicking out. We had a sequence where Billy Gunn ends up hitting his Famouser. Then Max Caster ends up doing an elbow drop to Jay White. Jay White ends up kicking out. I thought right there that the Acclaim was going to win. Thought once Billy Gunn hit the Famouser and then Max Caster hit that elbow drop, I really thought the Acclaim won the match from there. But Jay White kicks out. Then we got a nice sequence. This was the ending sequence. Billy Gunn tries to do the Famouser. Jay White ends up reversing it. Jay White then tries to do a Blade Runner. Billy Gunn reverses it into a roll-up pin. Jay White kicks out of the roll-up pin, hits the Blade Runner, and Bullet Club Gold wins. Really enjoyed this match. Very shocked that Bullet Club Gold win. And they are the AEW World Trios Champion and Ring of Honor Trios Champions. They hold both sets of Trios titles, and now they're the Undisputed Trios Champions. I really love this, and I'm excited to see the new design because there's no way they're going to keep those same designs with Bullet Club, like the pink titles. They have to change those. They have to change those for Bullet Club. But really happy that Jay White got the win. They needed this win. It only makes sense for them to win. And plus, they did cheat in this match, but them cheating really didn't affect the real outcome of this match, so that's what I really like too. So they beat them fairly clean here. Now we're gonna get to the main show, the main matches that are actually on the card. The first match, the opening match, is Okada versus Pac. This was a really great match. Really good sequences. Both men did amazing in the ring. It was a sequence where Pac ends up doing a springboard moonsault on the outside. It was there was a lot of wrestlers landing on their feet between the Okada match and Will Ospreay and Daniel Bryan. Okada tried to go for a German suplex. Pac ends up landing on his feet, then ends up hitting Okada with his own German suplex. Okada did like a shotgun drop kick, and then I think Okada was finna do, I don't know, it was something where Okada was standing in the ring and it looks like he was about to do something. The crowd is getting excited, and then he ends up flipping off the crowd. And then after he flips off the crowd, you got "fuck Okada" chants. That was crazy. We end up getting a deadlift German suplex by Pac. Ends up pinning. I think he ends up pinning Okada, but Okada ends up kicking out. It was a sequence where Pac ends up hitting a power driver on Okada, and then he goes to the top rope. This is the ending sequence. Yeah, Pac ends up doing a power driver on Okada, drags him towards close to the top rope, goes to the top rope, Okada ends up grabbing the referee to buy his time, distracting the referee, grabbing his leg. Pac ends up coming off the ring, the top rope, starts stumping Okada's face in, goes back on the top rope, but Pac goes for his dive. I don't know what the dive is called. He did like this spinning, like 360 flip. It was very hard. I can't really explain what he did, but it was very nice. Okada gets his knees up. Then Okada ends up hitting Pac with the Rainmaker, picks up the victory, and retains his Continental Championship. This was a great match. Really great match. I give it like a solid 8 out of 10. This was really good. Really enjoyed this match. Next, we got Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, Mark Briscoe versus House of Black. This was also a really good match. Really enjoyed this match. The outcome of this match surprised me. Surprised me well. We had some very cool spots. We got Mark Briscoe did a very cool springboard front flip on the outside to Brody King. We also had a sequence where Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe was on the top rope. They was trying to suplex Brody King, but got interfered by Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black. They end up powerbombing Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe. Then Adam Copeland ends up comes in the ring, then goes to the top rope and suplex Brody King. Then we had a sequence where Edge and Brody King was in the ring. Edge is in the corner. Brody King's in the corner. Mark Briscoe is on the ring apron, on the left wing apron, and Eddie Kingston's on the middle ring apron, if I'm not mistaken. Or it could have been swapped. All of them are charging up, and then you see Edge goes for a spear. Mark Briscoe goes for a spear, and Eddie Kingston goes for a spear, and they all hit the spear around the same time. Adam Copeland ends up spearing Brody King. Eddie Kingston ends up spearing Buddy Matthews, and Mark Briscoe ends up spearing Malachi Black. I really love that. That was very cool. Then we got the ending sequence after he ends up spearing Brody King. He couldn't get the pin. Yeah, he couldn't go for the pin. Brody King ends up rolling out. Malachi Black ends up rolling in. Ed tries to go for another spear. Malachi Black ends up hitting Adam Copeland with the misc. Malachi Black ends up doing his signature kick and ends up pinning Adam Copeland for the 1-2-3, and they end up winning the match. This was a really good match, really fun match. I thought House of Black was going to win based off their history, and because I really didn't think Adam Copeland and Eddie Kingston was going to lose, but I'm kind of happy House of Black won because now they may continue this feud just because they did cheat to win, but hey, a win is a win in my book, and I'm happy that House of Black win because they always lose feuds, so I'm glad they won this. Next up, we got Roger Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly. This was a really good match. This was a good match. I enjoyed this match. Nothing too major into happening. They had a sequence where Wardlow ends up coming out, but he didn't really affect the match, so I don't understand what was the point of having Wardlow, because came out, tried to interfere, but the ref saw him, and then after that, he didn't play a part, so I don't understand why they had Wardlow come out. But this was a good match. The amount of backbreakers Roger Strong was doing in this match was insane. Now, from what I watch from him, he does do that a lot, but man, them backbreakers, man, every time I just see it, it's just, man, those moves, I know those moves hurt. Like the backbreakers was insane in this match. But Roger Strong ends up hitting End of Heartache to ends up picking up the victory. After the match though, Adam Cole comes out in a wheelchair, but then he ends up standing up and walking. So now Adam Cole can officially stand up and walk without the wheelchair. It looks like he doesn't need the wheelchair anymore, and I'm glad he's making his recovery. Now that still doesn't mean that he's close to, well, it means he's getting better, of course, but we don't know if that means he's a month away, 2 months away. He could still be 4 months, 5 months away for what we know. But he is making progress, and it's good to see that he's finally walking after suffering that injury. Very happy for him. This was a good match, though. Now, next, we got Hook versus Chris Jericho, which is, going to be honest, this was the biggest surprise. I thought this was one of the main matches that I thought was guaranteed to, I thought I was going to be right about, but apparently I was wrong. But this started off good. You had a nice Hook German suplex at the beginning of the match from the outside from Hook to Chris Jericho. Then Hook ends up doing a very nasty headshot to Chris Jericho with the trash can lid. Then he ends up doing it again. Yeah, he ends up doing it again where he ends up jumping off the steel steps and hitting Chris Jericho with the trash can lid again to the head. Um, then we had a sequence where I think Hook ends up doing a slam. Yeah, he ends up doing he ends up doing a slam, a one-handed arm slam. I think it's called a T-bone slam, and not mistaken. That's what they call it. A T-bone slam off the ring apron onto a table. Really thought that was sick. Um, then we had the sequence where Hook got the trash can, puts Chris Jericho in the trash can, got the kendo stick and start whooping Chris Jericho while Chris Jericho is stuck in the trash can. Then he ends up doing a T-bone slam while he's in the trash can. Now we had a weird sequence in this match which confused me, and I think she messed up. Aubrey Edwards ends up counting three by accident when Chris Jericho, it was after a table spot, Chris Jericho um, ends up, Hook had him in like a submission when he was on Chris Jericho's back. It was a table in the corner, and Chris Jericho and just ends up putting Hook through the table to get out of the submission. Goes for the pin. Now Aubrey Edwards starts the pin count a little early, and then after Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho ends up putting his feet on the ropes, it's like Aubrey Edwards tries to like do a restart just because Chris Jericho put his feet on the ropes, but that's not how that works. Like, you don't restart a count just because a wrestler ends up putting their feet on the ropes. Like, if they already have them in a pinning sequence, you don't restart the count. You continue to count even if they're. So it was very weird. That was a mess up on Aubrey Edwards' part because the match should have ended there because he got a 3 count, but she ends up messing up. The crowd was even. It was a fan, and it was a fan. I end up reading his lips. He ends up saying that you fucked up, which she did. She definitely fucked up that count. Um, got the ending sequence. Chris Jericho ends up getting a low blow. Ends up low blowing Hook. Does the Judas effect, Hook kicks out, does the Judas effect again, kicks out again. He ends up going outside, grabs the belt. He's talking to Hook. He ends up saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this to you. Hook ends up flipping Chris Jericho off. Chris Jericho hits him with the chair, pins him for the 1, 2, 3. And Chris Jericho is your new FTW champion. This was a good match, but I'm just so confused. Why? I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. You guys let me know. I don't understand what was the purpose of Chris Jericho winning this match, especially after, because the first match that they had when they first fought each other, Hook dominated Chris Jericho. Like, Hook dominated him. So the fact that Hook is now struggling all of a sudden, I feel like Hook should have won. Especially after what he did to his father. You know, he disrespected his father. Like, I don't understand why they have Chris Jericho win this match. I really don't get it personally. Maybe I'm assuming this feud is going to keep going because I don't know why it was stopped, but I don't really understand. But I'm going to go on and get to the next match because this was a head stretcher. I'm just going to be honest. This was a head stretcher. Next, we got the AEW World Championship match with Tony Storm versus Thunder Rosa. This was a good match. I enjoyed this match. This was a really good match. I thought it was very solid. This was a good match. I don't have too many spots to really go over. I like Thunder Rosa. She ends up hitting a nice Valley driver on the ring apron. I thought that was sick. We had a nice Tony Storm. Tony Storm ends up power bombing Thunder Rosa on the ring apron. I think. No, she just did a regular power bomb. We did have a sequence where Mariah May tries to interfere in the match, gets on the ring apron. Deonna Purrazzo ends up coming out and attacking Mariah May. Then you don't see them for the rest of the match. Little confused there. It looks like Deonna Purrazzo is still, of course, going to come after Tony Storm, but don't understand why we have that because it didn't play a part in the match. You could have just not have that and just had, because Tony Storm didn't really need Mariah May to really interfere because what happened towards the end, it didn't matter. So don't know why they added that, but towards the end, Tony Storm ends up going for a hip attack, and then she ends up going to her finisher, Storm Zero. Thunder Rosa kicks out. Then she ends up, the ref gets distracted because Thunder Rosa, I think it was a submission hold. Thunder Rosa had her in. She ends up getting her hand underneath the ropes, but she ends up pulling like the little, I don't know what it's called. It's the little curtain or the curtain that they have to block off, the bottom of the ring, pulls that. She pulled it like, not completely off, but she pulled it very hard where most of it was in the ring. The referee, of course, gets distracted by that, tries to put it back to, put it back the way it's supposed to be. Ends up low blowing, hits a low blow kick to Thunder Rosa, hits the Storm Zero, picks up the victory. This was a really good match. Of course, the expected outcome, Tony Storm was not going to lose to Thunder Rosa. This was a really good match, interesting match. Now, there was a match that I ended up missing by accident. It was after the 6-man tag match by accident. I forgot that match by accident. It was the Willow Nightingale versus Julia Hart for the TBS Championship. Completely forgot about that match. Accidentally skipped over. I thought that was a really good match. Not gonna go too much into it because the match wasn't that long. It felt like the match was like 8 minutes, 10 minutes tops. We had a nice Julia. Well, towards the end actually. Yeah, it was towards the end. I'm just gonna mainly discuss the ending sequence because nothing too major really happened in this match. There was no interferences, but Julia Hart goes for a moonsault, goes for her signature moonsault. Willow Nightingale gets her feet up, hits Julia with a clothesline, then hits her with a powerbomb, ends up picking up the victory there. Thought it was a decent match, nothing too special. But then after the match though, Chris Statlander and Stokely comes out. Now, Chris Statlander is one corner and Stokely is in the other. And Willow Nightingale's in the middle. Now, it looked like for a second that they was going to do a heel turn. Because they were just standing there staring at her. And it looked like they was trying to surround her. But, they end up just playing it up. They end up hugging her, congratulating her. As they congratulate her, Mercedes Moné ends up coming out. Her theme music hits, the CEO theme. She does her dance, all of that. Comes out, comes in the ring, and then them two have a stand. They end up just staring at each other, have a little face off, and that was the end right there. Nothing too special, but of course they're building up for Double or Nothing. Mercedes constantly been talking about Willow, how she wants payback. So unfortunately, Willow is not going to have a long reign, in my opinion. But I'm happy that Willow got the win. Now, next match. We just discussed Tony Storm, Thunder Rosa. So now we got Will Ospreay versus Daniel Bryan. This right here. I knew this was going to be match of the night, but man, this match was amazing. This was really good. This was an amazing match. 10 out of 10 for me. At the beginning of the match, Don Callis was on commentary. We got "fuck Don Callis" chants. Thought that was good. We had some crazy sequences. It was at the beginning of the match, just still early in the match, if I'm not mistaken. Will Ospreay ends up going for a springboard, but Brian Danielson, my fault. I'm so used to calling him Daniel Bryan, but Brian Danielson ends up kicking him mid-air as he did the springboard. Thought that was sick. We had Will Ospreay hitting a corkscrew kick after he does his signature bounce off after doing a handstand. That was crazy. It was a sequence where Will Ospreay ends up doing this I can't really explain it, where he kind of walked on Brian Danielson's body. He walked off of his body and then doing a drop kick afterwards. I thought that was crazy. Will Ospreay did a 360 flip on the outside. Thought that was a crazy sequence right there. Then this happened 3 or 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. Will Ospreay kept landing on his feet after Brian Danielson kept on trying to hit him with a move. I remember Brian Danielson did a top rope Hurricanrana, and then Will Ospreay landed on his feet. Will Ospreay did a tiger driver soon after that. I think Brian Danielson also did a tiger suplex off the top rope too as well. It was also a moment where Daniel Bryan tries to go for a German suplex. Will Ospreay again lands on his feet. Then Daniel Bryan ends up hitting his psycho knee, goes for the pin, kicks out. Brian Danielson ends up doing his signature stomps, stomping the guy constantly in the head. Goes for a triangle submission. Will Ospreay ends up reversing this triangle submission, turns it into a Styles Clash. I was going crazy when he did that. That was a sick maneuver. I was going wild when he did that. Then after he did that, Will Ospreay ends up going for a cutter. Brian Daniels ends up doing his psycho knee in midair while he ends up going for the cutter. That was crazy. Then we got the finishing sequence. Will and Brian Danielson both are charging up in the corner. They both run towards each other. Will Ospreay clothesline Brian Danielson, hits him with a pile driver. Now this is where the sad news comes because in Bryan Danielson was holding his neck after he did the pile driver, but then I think Will Ospreay didn't know he was injured at this time. Will Ospreay ends up going to the corner, did like a running elbow to the back of the head, and then picks up the victory. This was a great, amazing match. Now it looks like Bryan Danielson is injured. I don't think they're playing an injury angle. Now, to be fair, for me personally, it's very hard to tell when wrestlers are faking or injured or real because wrestlers are very good at acting, and sometimes the way they pull it off, they're very good at convincing you that it's a real injury. I think it's real because it doesn't make sense for it to be fake, no offense. And Bryan Danielson, from what I have seen, he typically don't fake injuries. So I think this is a real injury. I hope it's nothing serious. I hope it was just more of an in a moment thing and not something that's going to linger on. And I really hope he can make a speedy recovery. And it's unfortunate, but that was a very great, amazing match. Next up, we got the Young Bucks versus FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships in a ladder match. This was a great match. This was a very interesting, great match. I really enjoyed it, especially the ending. We had a moment where this was towards early in the match. Dax ends up throwing Nick off the top rope onto a ladder. The ladder that he ended up throwing him on was like leaning against the middle rope. Yeah, they had it leaning against the middle rope. Nick Jackson was on the top rope. Dax ends up just picking him and throwing him off. Then Matt Jackson tries to attack him, runs off the ropes, goes full speed at him. Dax just ends up flipping him, tossing him up in the air, and then Matt Jackson ends up landing on the ladder. Later in the match, we had a cool swanton bomb on Cash Wheeler while Cash Wheeler was on a ladder. The ladder was attached like the ring apron to like the barricade, I think, or some. It was attached to the ring apron, I know for sure. I don't know if it was attached to the barricade as well, but Nick Jackson ends up doing a swanton onto Cash Wheeler onto the ladder. I thought that was sick. The Young Bucks ends up doing their EVP trigger onto a ladder onto Cash Wheeler. That was a cool sequence. I think this happened before the EVP trigger, but the Young Bucks had Dax in between the ladders. They had him stuck in between the ladders. This was while Dax was busted open because they ended up busting open Dax. He was in between the ladders, and then they end up getting chairs, and they just start hitting him with the chair while in between the ladders, just constantly smash him. That was very sick. Later in the match, we had Cash Wheeler. It was a table set up like outside the ring towards the ring apron. Cash Wheeler ends up hitting Matt Jackson with a spear. He ends up going like through the rope, like through the middle rope to end up spearing him through the table. That was really sick. Nick Jackson ends up hitting a Hurricanrana to Dax onto the table. That was really good too. We got the ending towards the end though. You had Dax, if I'm not mistaken. Dax ends up suplexing Nick Jackson off the ladder. It was on the top of the ladder. Dax ends up suplexing Nick Jackson off the ladder. Then Cash Wheeler ends up diving off the top of the other ladder, ends up diving onto Nick. Then afterwards, Dax ends up doing a power driver to Matt. Yeah, he ends up doing a power driver onto Matt Jackson on a ladder, if I'm not mistaken. That was crazy. That was very sick. And I liked how you protect him as well, because when he first was doing that, I was kind of worried. But Dax ends up taking majority of that damage of that power driver. Then you had Cash Wheeler ends up doing a suicide dive, but when he did the suicide dive, Nick Jackson ends up moving out the way, and he ends up hitting a table, running to the table. Then we have the ending sequence. It was Matt Jackson and Dax on the top of the ladder, fighting it out, going back and forth. Dax ends up knocking Matt Jackson out, and it looks like Dax is going to win. He's the only one on the ladder, the only one in the ring. He has the clear advantage, but I had a feeling because it was taking him way too long. It took him like 10 seconds to finally go for the tag titles. He goes for the title, but then someone in a white mask and a black hoodie comes in the ring, knocks Dax off the ladder, comes in, security, they're talking about it's a fan. We all know it's not a fan. They revealed the mask, and it was Jack Perry, man. It was Jack Perry. He ends up interfering in the match. Then Nick Jackson climbs the ladder, and ends up picking up the victory for the Young Bucks. And now they're two-time AEW World Champions. This was a great match, really great match. Really enjoyed this match, and this was really great. And the Jack Perry turn was crazy. That was very shocking. Now we got to the main event: Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe. Um, this was a really good match. I thought it would have been better. To be fair, they were playing an injury angle with Samoa Joe, but this was great. Um, we had it, Samoa Joe hit his typical like look away when someone is about to jump on him, but Swerve ends up countering it. Swerve was prepared for it and ends up doing a drop kick to the outside to drop kick Samoa Joe outside. Swerve Strickland tries to do a suicide dive, but Joe ends up catching him and ends up doing a power slam onto an announce table. Then we had a sequence where Joe, while they're outside, ends up ripping off the padding off the outside, showing the concrete, and Joe tries to go for a muscle buster on the concrete, which I was like, there's no way they're doing that. But Swerve ends up reversing it, tries to attack Samoa Joe. Joe gets the upper hand, ends up doing a power slam onto the concrete. Then we get later in the match, Joe ends up doing a power bomb onto the turnbuckle, into a muscle buster, and then Swerve kicks out at 2. Swerve Strickland did a nasty 450 splash. It was when Joe was like on like in the middle rope, but also on the ring apron, like half his body on the ring apron, the other half like inside the ring. Did like a 450. Then he ends up turning that into a swerve stomp. Joe ends up kicking out. Then we get the ending sequence. Swerve Strickland did a top rope power bomb onto Samoa Joe. Then goes to the top rope, swerve stomp, picks up the victory. Swerve Strickland is now your new AEW World Champion. And this was a really good match. I thought it would have been better, but really good match. Happy for Swerve Strickland, the first African American AEW World Champion. This was great. This is history. Really enjoyed this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view was really good. Thought this was great. I give it like a solid 8 out of 10. Probably like an 8.5 out of 10. There's not really a match I didn't enjoy for the most part. Questionable title change with Chris Jericho and Hook, but for the most part, this was a great pay-per-view. Not one match was bad. AEW typically delivers on the end. But what do you guys think? What did you guys think of this pay-per-view? I thought it was amazing. Thought it was really great. Enjoyed this pay-per-view. Bit long, but 12 matches on the card. You expect it to be long. 9 if you include just the main matches. And I did pretty good with the predictions. I went 9 for 12, including the 0-hour predictions. 9 for 12, pretty solid. But what did you guys think? Did you like the title change? The title changes. Did you like the matches? What did you guys think? What would you rate this? But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.